Okay, let's get the meeting started. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we'll start with the presentation from Ken Barber, Cornell Cooperative Extension.
Hi, everyone.
Good evening.
So I'm here today to try to hopefully work through some of the specific details on those 3 initiatives that I've been speaking about over the past few months. I think we're finally all in a good place to hopefully start some of this work soon, so I'm coming here today to seek approval to conduct some of this work in the next month or 2 as far as site selection and the exact activities that we're going to do. So I provided just a draft proposal that has some additional details from what I've presented in prior months. And the first initiative, if you remember, we were talking about doing a submarine groundwater discharge study in Napeague Harbor. This one was going to be more focused on figuring out the best sites to do eelgrass restoration, because as I mentioned, we have that National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant open, and I need to select 5 sites throughout Suffolk County to do eelgrass restoration at. We're very interested in pursuing work in Napeague Harbor, but we just needed to do a little bit more of that legwork and site suitability modeling a little bit. So we're interested. You could see one of the last 2 pages, you'll see there's a map kind of the whole eastern shore of potential sites that we're really interested in. Some of these have existing vegetation. Others, there's an absence of vegetation, so we're interested in looking at both those types of sites. And we wouldn't necessarily be doing it at all of these sites, but what we are proposing to do is use one of our Trident meters. So it's pretty much there's actually a picture of it on the second page there. You could see it just has 3 kind of rods there that could affix. You put different probes on there depending on what you're trying to measure. And in our case, for this specific project, we're really just looking for the absence of or presence of groundwater seepage coming through the bottom. So we basically just take this meter here, and you could see there's a little skiff, and off that skiff, off the bow there, there's one of the Tridents, what it looks like when it's deployed. Again, we do this in, pretty shallow water, pretty close to the shore. All these sites that we proposed are, close to the shoreline, because that's really where we're interested in seeing that groundwater seepage coming through. So we do various transects of these once we get a signal of groundwater, freshwater coming through, and we're actually able to track and map where the sites are that have the strongest influxes. And based on this information, we wanted to put out those test plantings this October that, again, we have funding to do that aspect of it. So I'm seeking permission or approval to conduct work in some or all of these sites, and I'd love your feedback on what we're proposing.
I have a question. How many Tridents would be deployed at a given time?
So it's just one. It's a very expensive technical piece of equipment, so we have one in our arsenal of toys that we use for things like this. And so it would just be a team of people on one of our, probably our 18-foot little Carolina skiff there, about 3 people going out there during the low tide cycles. Over pretty much we could get this whole survey done probably in a week or 2 time, depending on the tidal cycle and staff availability and all of that. So the Trident itself, it doesn't stay deployed, it's just out there. We push it in, get the readings that we need to do, pull it up, go to the next site, and again, so we're just doing these transects up and down the shoreline.
Sounds pretty non-invasive.
Yeah, and then just there is a second part of that, depending on what we're seeing and if we're getting enough data, and if we're questionable in some of the areas about what the temperature might be, we might be interested in, after we do the initial Trident survey, putting out some of our temperature loggers, actually. So again, these guys, they're pretty benign, pretty small. We actually have a network of these throughout the whole Peconic estuary system. People don't even know they're there. And we like to say it that way because they're pretty expensive little pieces of equipment. But basically, we kind of tie off a piece of rebar onto this, and we just put that in the bottom. So it's the extent of, you know, about a foot-long piece of rebar, kind of like a candy cane that has this on it, that would be put out in sites if we did want to get a little bit more information on the temperature in the month of August. But I could come back or have correspondence at that time if there are exact locations we'd like to have these and hopefully get approval for that aspect of things. But for the trident work, nothing's staying in the bottom. We're just, you know, going along and popping it in the bottom to get the data that we need.
And is your thought that Nat Peak is going to be a little cooler than Northwest Harbor with regards to the eelgrass planting? Because I know we ran into a problem.
Exactly.
a couple of years
We
back.
tried this in Northwest, and quite frankly, we didn't do this aspect of things. For that project, we were just looking at the light and temperature, and because we thought temperature was going to be a limiting factor, and it was. And there are some other issues going on there as well, as far as, you know, the dredging, and there's sediment issues further back in the creek where we were really interested in doing it. So that's kind of, you know, that's kind of step one. Here we know there's, you know, good bottom for this. There's existing eelgrass there already. It's just a matter of trying to find the exact locations where it's going to thrive best and our resources are best spent as far as expanding these meadows.
I'd like to make a motion that we
Second.
All in favor?
Question, just pending receipt of the information that Kim has provided, like the coordinates and stuff like that. Otherwise, I would just say, you know, based on the map and based on which particular site seems to be the best for your program, that we just ensure that any other user groups, you know, particularly Barley, I know you talk to Barley all
Oh,
the
of
time,
course,
but
yeah.
where his seating is, where there might be any existing shellfishing going on, just so that there's no conflict with any of the user groups. I know you don't anticipate any based on this, but let's just ensure, once your site
Heads
is,
up anyway. He was actually really
chosen,
excited
yeah.
about sites, you know, 1, 2, and 3 down there, because he's really, you know, interested in
Okay.
trying to establish some things down there, and again, habitat being the limiting factor in some cases of natural shellfish recruitment. It's exciting to hatchery folks and habitat folks alike. So
Okay, good.
we'll
And
share
is
that.
the rebar, is that pushed all the way down?
Yeah, yes, it's not. Yep, that's in the bottom. So when we come and get it,
Nobody
we
can
have to-
step on it?
No,
and
no, no, it's
get
not a hazard.
pierced?
We've been using this methodology for the past almost 10 years, and we've never had an issue or a report of an issue of it coming
Right,
loose.
right,
It's
that's all.
really,
I'm
yep,
thinking of it.
it's in
Not
there nice and
child.
tight. No, no, no.
All right.
Okay, thank you. So then, moving on to the second initiative, we're talking about.
We have a motion.
Oh, sorry.
We need to vote.
Okay,
Yep,
No.
you seconded it,
It was,
right?
then we had a discussion, so it goes back to,
one more question.
sure.
Is this the one, though, if we're going to approve, that it's also attached to money, correct? Is this the one?
yes, so that was the one, Lazy Point
That-
Neighborhood Association did
Right.
provide a great donation. If whatever the trustees could bring to the table, that'll dictate how many sites that we do. So we could move ahead with what we have in place, but I know, I'm sorry, I wasn't here at the last meeting that was discussed, so if that's still on the table.
Well,
it will-
I think we approved $2,500 at, not the last meeting, the meeting before.
Is that the balance of the goal?
I don't
Yes, so
remember.
that would get us to our 5,000.
Okay, anyone want to make a motion for
I'm
that?
sorry, I couldn't hear. How much?
$2,500.
Is there any way we could see if any portion of this can be paid via our town budget lines? Outside professional or subcontractor?
Well, I wouldn't want to hold up the project. We could probably look into that
Internally.
internally.
I think this is the right time to do the work, so I think we would like to move forward at this time if we could.
Yes, we're really looking at the next couple weeks. We're getting close to our window that we
Well,
really need to
We
get
could
this out there.
approve the funding, and I will investigate if we can
Okay,
offset it from
we
town
we
line.
approved this, I believe, Lori, we approved this 2 meetings ago. Okay, so now
Okay.
what we're voting on tonight is
Just,
The
Go.
site project.
the site project.
okay, so we're done.
Okay, great. So yeah, we could coordinate as far as getting those funds, but if I know they're pledged in there and we'll figure that out, all the more reason we could expand and do a lot more of the sites than we'd be able to do with what we have currently.
So would you like to move on to?
Okay, so now, moving on then to Initiative 2. So if you remember, this is a similar type effort, but with a little bit of a different focus. So again, we're looking at submarine groundwater discharge study, but this has a little bit of a different end goal, and the issues are a little bit different in 3 Mile versus Napeague, what we're trying to do. Now this, we had a substantial donation from the Great Peconic Race Committee, so we're able to do a little bit more of an in-depth look at 3 Mile. So if you look at, it's the last map there. I apologize, this one's not labeled, but you can see it's 3 Mile. We have selected these 3 locations of interest based on numerous factors. You could see, it didn't print out too well, but all of those blue arrows that are pointing towards the headwater of the creek, that represents the flow of groundwater. So we're very interested in that Site 1 there, and 2 and 3 for that matter, because in this case, it's getting groundwater coming in from different angles. So we're anticipating a strong signal of groundwater, and with that carrying nutrients that may be leading to some of the problems that we're seeing in that part of the creek. So we're very interested in these 3 areas. Area number 3 is the area that it would be more likely for us to be able to establish habitat and eelgrass based on the findings. For the other 2, it would, you know, some of the recommendations that might come based on our findings might be citing more permeable reactive barriers that we've been working on, or doing some macroalgae bioremediation type projects. So the whole idea of the work we do gathering this data, we would put it into a final report that we would present to the board with some recommendations of just possibilities of different treatments and different types of projects. And you know, that could be something that's funded through CPF, funded to us, or for, you know, however it ends up working out. We just want to be able to use our technology to give some good potential remedies to some of the nutrient issues that we're seeing.
When are you looking to do this work,
When?
this stuff work?
This is all, you know, this summer too, ideally, so in August timeframe. This, I think the Napeague has priority because that we want to put potentially some of the temperature loggers out, and we need to figure out a site for the eelgrass planting in time for October if we're going to move forward with that. For the 3 Mile work, it's more of, you know, that'll probably be the second priority. We definitely want to get this data in our hands.
Is it the same probe setup that you're using in Napeague?
Exactly, but for this one, seeing that we do have more funds available, we could use, as I mentioned, there's different probes that we put on the 3 spigots of the Trident there. One of them actually takes pore water samples, so we could pump up that submarine groundwater discharge water and actually do a nutrient analysis on it, so we could actually get, you know, how many milligrams per liter or whatnot of nitrogen is in there, and that'll help, you know, form the baseline for a project down the road that we at least know what the existing conditions are, and we'll be in a better place to, if an improvement is done there, to actually have it be scientifically valuable and track success that there was in fact a reduction. We've done this in some other areas, and we have seen reductions, and it's really exciting, so we would like to do some nutrient analysis of the pore water as part of this. That wouldn't be done in Napeague, but here we would like to take some samples.
So what has changed between losing eelgrass and, say, your efforts, which I applaud, but has the chemistry, the pollution, you know, nitrate, whatever the culprit is, you know, what makes you think that it's going to take the eelgrass?
Well, we have, you know, we have our baseline kind of, we call it our suitability index model. So it looks at things like water clarity, water temperature, sediment type, and this is kind of going above and beyond that, saying that in areas like Napeague, where there's, you know, good water coming through, there's eelgrass existing there, there's groundwater coming through, but the previous plantings we did there were unsuccessful, and to us, that's a research question. Why? And our plantings aren't 100% successful, even in the best situations. So it's a very complicated situation because we're dealing with really, it's a multiple stressor situation. So it's not only, you know, water temperatures rising, it's the, you know, when we lost about 80% of our populations estuary-wide due to the, you know, wide-scale harmful algal blooms back in the 80s and 90s, eelgrass is very slow to recover on its own to begin with. So everything is pointing, you know, not in its favor to try to come back naturally. So we're getting to the point where we need to start honing in on locations, doing more research to really fully understand what's happening in that specific little sub-watershed area. And then once we get success, we want to revisit it every year and make sure we're building on that. And, you know, we see like in, you know, the nursery industry and everything else, it's the sleep, the leap, and the creep. That's what we see, you know, with eelgrass as well. So if it survives the first year, it's kind of just dormant and hanging out. We see it start to take off, and then with that third year, if we keep building it, it really starts to take off. So that's why we've kind of reprioritized through this whole Back to the Bays initiative and these stewardship sites. We want to do it, you know, working with partners, working in areas where we feel we could get a consistent level of support through, you know, various sorts of funding to revisit this every year. And that's why, you know, Napeag is very promising to us, because we know it's there and it could work. Some other areas, you know, Northwest, you know, areas that have more sediment issues that unless ecologically dredged or, you know, other factors came in, we don't even have an existing spot to, you know, be able to try it, because we know it's just there's too much organics, it's the root systems, it's not going to be happy. So in 3 Mile, it's kind of a mix of both. We know historically, you know, we've seen eelgrass there. There's still, you know, areas of eelgrass. There's, you know, strong groundwater flow. So if we could put this all together and, you know, hone in on an exact site that, you know, maybe groundwater is that magic, you know, part of the equation, that we can make it work. So that the research potential on this is really, it's significant too. So you guys are part of something exciting, you know, for us and for industry-wide. You know, people are trying to restore eelgrass throughout the world. So this is some cutting-edge, you know, technology.
Oh, and I thank you for explaining that. The culprit was the algae blooms that we had, and I had forgotten that. And we just have to hope, once we get everything, you know, hopefully thriving, that we're not going to get these algae blooms, which we probably don't have a great deal of, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Control over.
But that's why these permeable reactive barriers and some of these other more, you know, cutting it off before it's even getting into the embayment. Obviously, there's upland issues that need to be addressed as well. But if we're kind of, you know, in the meantime, it's kind of a little, you know, stopping it at its source before it goes in there any further, before we invest in areas that, yeah, it's just going to keep happening again. So it's really a whole
Got it. Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we,
Well, okay, discussion.
more discussion.
Okay. No, I just want to say, with regard to Tanbar Creek,
Yes.
the last time I was down there, both the culvert as it goes under Soak Heights and then over to Springy Banks, they are clogged. They have been clogged for so long. I think Bill went down sometime in the last decade and cut some Phragmites out of Tanbar Creek on the Soak Heights side. But it is not flowing. The water is not, so you've got the arrows showing where our groundwater is coming from, but it's obviously getting stuck. It's not flowing down into that creek and then into the harbor. So there's a big problem in that area with groundwater and, you know, so, like, having that said, does this change, or is there a way to include this within your research so that we ensure whatever data you come up with, if we were to get that water, those culverts open, is it going to negatively impact, positively impact?
Yeah, Diane, just keep in mind, the Phragmites and stuff that are in those creeks, and the fact that it does slow the water down, does give the plant material in there the opportunity to absorb some of those nutrients. So sometimes you don't want the water to get in there fast.
Right.
Because it's not, at this end of the harbor, it doesn't really flush very well anyway. So if some of those nutrients can get absorbed, that may be a good thing.
Okay, so absorbed versus flowing, I mean, that's the question to be asked, because, I mean, there's some people in that general area that have been very concerned for a long time, because those little pipes going into the roads are just, they're clogged.
Yeah.
Well, Diana, I think part of this is a preliminary study that will look at the
Trail
groundwater
there.
inflow and understand the composition of the waters, and if it has high levels of nitrogen, which I think we feel it does, and they can qualify that for us, maybe when we open up those culverts, they're candidates for barriers, and we'll have better scientific data
Right.
to help design a remediation plan.
So if that
Yeah,
seems to be the case, though, would we be supportive of getting them open? Because we,
Very possibly.
I don't know whose
I think Kim's
responsibility it is,
research
but,
would help us
yeah.
make that decision, so I
I
think
think
it
that's
will
what it
only
comes
help
down
us.
to too, and in a lot of these areas, and you'll see from our transects, you'll see, you know, exactly where the groundwater is coming through too. It's not just at the shoreline. In some cases, it's coming in offshore too, so it may or may not even be impacted by that issue. But as part of what we do in our final report, we will certainly include field observations and things just like that, that if we think that it would or wouldn't make a difference, and again, we're not, you know, we don't dictate policy, we just, you know, provide data and science behind things, it's definitely something that we would be evaluating as part of our observations while we're in the field and incorporate that into our final report.
Okay.
Where would the permeable reactive barriers be installed?
This is what ideally would hope dictate that, because right now we currently have one up closer, or there's a 0.25% project happening. Well, it's not really happening yet, but there's, you know, different pots of money around to do some of these technologies. Nothing's really, you know, happening yet, but having this data to identify additional areas or pinpoint them more so by saying you're going to get more bang for your buck if you do, you know, 500 yards of shoreline in this versus in
But
this.
they will go, how far in from the shoreline do they go?
Oh, yeah, so a lot of them, not very far, they're usually right at the shoreline, at the, you know, basically the mean high water line, and then it trenches dug, and wood chips, that's the,
I mean, it's not on the upland, it's actually, could even be on the beach?
yeah, and a lot of times we've retrofitted bulkheads to, you know, have it within the bulkhead, so it depends what the, you know,
So it
contour
can be
of
that
the
close to
shoreline
the
is.
water, that close to the water.
And that's, because that's where, you know, the groundwater, we want to catch what's coming through.
But all
before it
that
gets in.
material, the, you know, wood material is actually sitting in, it's sitting in groundwater, obviously.
Yeah, it would have to be at the interface, and that's to map this, that would help us, you know, determine exactly what the engineering behind it would be as far as the design. Systems are different depending on what the specific needs of the area are and the
But you're
shoreline.
probably looking at, you'd be doing this on public property, right? Because it's, I mean,
Yes, ideally, and that's the ones that we've done. And well, we've worked with the homeowners association to do one further out in Southampton town, but
generally it's on public land.
generally.
Okay.
But they can be retrofitted for homeowners too. That's, you know, the excitement part of that technology too, is that it's a relatively inexpensive way to, you know, address this issue. It's just a matter of, you know, selecting sites accordingly and ideally having, you know, town and public support of it.
Do you have an idea of what the cost is like per linear foot to do one?
I'm not sure. I know we have that information, but I don't have it at the top of my head, and I don't want to misspeak on it, but I could get that information. So yeah, so then there are our three, you know, priority sites for this aspect of the work. Again, once we got out there to do a little bit more of a preliminary field assessment before we, you know, started deploying our equipment, we could probably refine these sites a little bit more, but these are definitely the three areas of most interest from, you know, a hydrogeological standpoint and a land use standpoint and a potential, you know, remediation standpoint.
I think there was,
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this.
I'll
Yes,
second
sir.
that.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
I just like to hear Kim talk, Jim.
I figured that out.
I know.
All right, and Kim, do you have one more point?
I do. Hopefully this is the easiest one, because it is very much in line with what the great work that Barley's already doing and that is being supported by the town to begin with. So again, part of the paddle race that we had from the Great Peconic Race that we actually did right in 3 Mile, there was a good amount of proceeds that came forth from that, and part of the priorities for those funds was to do some sort of shellfish-related project. Now, we thought it would be a great opportunity to collaborate with the town of East Hampton Shellfish Hatchery. Even though we grow our own shellfish out, we have a lot of other projects happening. And in speaking with Barley, he actually has overwintered clams from last year that are at a good size to plant now, because part of this, we wanted to have some sort of, you know, paddle community involvement event to seed clams. The clams that we have in our nursery system right now, they're too small to really be viable to be dealing with this time of year, but Barley has some good, you know, dime-sized clams that would work out really perfectly for this purpose. So we're proposing to, in the next few weeks actually, hopefully have a public event that we would invite anyone from the paddle community to come help us broadcast these clams. In talking to Barley too, we were trying to figure out some sites. We were talking about doing the west side of Sedge Island there, And that, as I understand, is a site that he already actively seeds or has in the past couple of years. So it's already, been done in this area. So hopefully it would be met with support for us to just expand upon those efforts a little bit.
And how many clams were proposed to be seeded?
We're looking at 100,000. Yeah, so, and they're already have a year head start, so only another 2 years or so before they're ready.
So, and it's simply by volunteer paddleboarders to just go out. So if you don't have enough individuals for the little buckets, would they get more buckets, or would Barley do the balance of the 100,000 like he does with all his other clams, or?
I'm not sure. I guess we would talk about the logistics. We would ideally want everybody to at least, put a handful out. And yeah, I'm sure we would make it work based on, we don't anticipate a huge scale level event, but, a dozen or 20 people would be nice.
Historically, there's been a pretty robust turnout by the volunteer community.
The 2 buoy markers off of Sedge Island, they're only there for the purpose of the seating, and then
Oh,
they're
yes,
picked
so
up.
that would help us, because we've done this before. Last time we did it off of Havens Beach, we did our Bay Scallops Spawner Sanctuary, and we put out 5,000 adults, and it was just easier for the paddles to have a reference point of, the area that stay within, the markers as far as where we wanted the shellfish put.
And you'll make sure your paddleboarders don't become a navigational hazard to the boats going in and out of the channel?
Stay out of the channel, yes.
All right, all right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the seeding project.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. These are Barley's clams, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, so born and raised right here too.
Okay.
Well, thank you again
you,
so
Kim.
much for your support, and I look forward to reporting some progress as we actually get started with some of this work now.
Thank you, Kim.
Yes.
I called your office today. We had a fellow in here a month or so ago looking to try to get some sort of program together on the horseshoe crabs.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
And what we're looking to do is during their breeding season, if we know, like the historic sites, maybe we can do something that doesn't affect the public too much, but helps the horseshoe crabs. And I was hoping maybe you guys had some information on that.
Yes, we, in coordination with DEC, manage a lot of the different monitoring locations throughout, actually, entire Long Island from Jamaica Bay on out. But a similar situation happened in Pikes Beach in West Hampton, and it's a really, known spot for the horseshoe crab spawn. So they were able to work with the Southampton trustees to actually work with the baymen to say, listen, during, the times of the full moon cycles, during the spawning cycles, they did actually, close off the fishery, and that would be, we don't get involved with policy issues, but they did that to, again, allow the resource to.
Is it you or DEC has the information, locations, and that?
Oh, sure, yeah, we have that. I could get you all. If you go to newyorkhorseshoecrab.org,
Yeah.
it's a site we maintain, and it has information on every single site we use, that we gather data from and what we've done historically. And we talked about doing this at Lazy Point a time ago, and we didn't get it together for this year, but we could establish new monitoring sites anywhere. We just need a dedicated team of volunteers, and we'll bring one of our ambassadors out to train up everyone and how to tag them and all of that. So it's something we have enough time now for, next season if you wanted to sponsor a site and organize volunteers.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. All right. Thanks again.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
All right. Tim, can I see that, please? Whoops, thanks. Okay, John Hall, would you like to come?
John Hall for the Georgic Association. This is just a status inquiry. The Georgic Association has been discussing with the trustees the plans for dredging Georgic Pond hopefully this fall. And we made a proposal with respect to the general circumstances of that being done. I just wanted to check on the status of that proposal.
Okay, as you know, we were concentrating on an
We were.
emergency permit,
That was a good thing to concentrate on.
and
if I say so.
I think that we will discuss that particular proposal with the committee members between this week and the next meeting?
Okay.
And then see where to go with that?
All right, well, we're prepared to proceed whenever you're prepared to proceed.
And as far as the larger project, I spoke with George Hammer today. And he's looking to set up a meeting at the end of this month or the beginning of next month with all the involved parties so we can work it together.
We
He's
could
still
do it
working on
Before the 6th,
Yeah, the 6th of what?
August.
Okay. He said the end of this month, but I'm giving it a little drift time. Yeah.
Well, if our presence and connection with that is something that you consider useful, you know how
He
to.
said he had to speak to some other people in the building, but he was trying to get it done this month.
Excellent.
I think, didn't we want to have somebody from each of those parties included? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's.
The history, I think it would be,
Yeah.
based on what I know.
I told him we could have the meeting out here, or we'd probably travel up there, whatever is gonna work out. We wanna get it done.
No, I would hope we
We'll,
could do
we'll
it
be
here
available
on site.
whenever you can schedule it. Okay? Thanks very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, John. Anybody else? Okay. Let's go on to new business. Georgia Pond Village ZBA notice hearing, reference to Maclo.
Yeah, that is that's one that we've already issued the permit on.
Okay.
So that was that Phragmites removal project.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think that there's really anything to do there.
Okay. Napeag Lazy Point, Eastman notice of complete application, natural resources special permit.
There's no hearing date set on that yet, but I'm sure there will be soon.
But that's also a project we've already approved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And roads, Richard Hyman, parcel on Crooked Highway.
I don't know.
47 Bull Path.
What's it
What's it
for?
about?
I don't,
Did we have a survey?
Is that the adjacent piece we looked at last time that had some questionable landscaping practices?
I don't think that was on Crooked Highway.
Yeah, it was
Was it?
down, we walked our piece that was adjacent to that project.
Oh, okay.
he's
Oh,
right, yeah, it
Like a
splits.
year ago?
Yeah, wow. Good memory.
Oh, so that's what you think, oh, that's the property
I
there.
think so.
What's he asking?
No, that's
I don't have
different
anything
parcel.
else on it.
I don't think this is the same one.
It's not.
Is they just want access? or-
What are they asking for?
Lori?
Mr. Hyman called the office and he said he wanted to know if the trustees ever gave away a portion of Crooked Highway because that portion that I have highlighted out
It's
is
not
the
owned by the,
portion-
not shown,
Yeah,
it's
it's
owned by the
not
trustees.
trustees.
That's
It's
Give
right.
it
owned
to
by a
who?
I'm aware of
private
this.
homeowner.
The short answer is no, I'm aware of this. The tax maps, for some time, if you look, well, the tax rolls, are showing that part of Crooked Highway as privately owned. And I don't know why. I'm sure the trustees never, conveyed it out. So this is a neighbor who's asking about that, I suppose, huh?
Yeah,
All right.
he said that he wanted to
Yeah,
know why the
you
trustees
can pass the
gave
tax
it
map
away.
around, but I've known of that for years. Someone's claiming to own that portion of Crooked Highway.
Lori, I'm a member of the roads committee, I'd be happy to follow
Okay.
up with him.
We would never
Forward me
give
his
away.
contact information.
Well, trustees have, but I don't think that's what happened here. I don't know how they came to claim it. We would have to do some looking into the title to that and see. They, presumably whoever claims title has a deed somehow.
Oh, we should
And-
ask him for a copy of that then.
And
Go
we'd
from
want to
there.
see what that says, when it was, who it's from. Did they get a quick claim deed with
do a
somebody,
little
someone who
homework.
wasn't in the chain of title?
I have to go back down there, Jim. I'll report back at the next meeting.
Okay.
Can you email me about that, Lori? And, I mean, anything heavy duty, we'd have to consider
title.
using a title company, but I mean, maybe I can get a copy of a deed from the town assessors or something like that? Because the assessor's office and the tax records are indicating that it's private ownership, and I've known it for a long time. I've always kind of been curious how that happened.
So is this part of the tax map number?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll forward you this information.
Okay, thanks.
Okay?
Good.
All right, old business, Georgia Pond, the dredging, I guess we just spoke about that. There's nothing new on it. Emergency opening, permit applications are out, so we'll wait and see what happens. Georgia Cove dredging, same thing. Horseshoe crabs, you spoke about that also. We're breezing right through. Committee reports. Accabonac Hog Creek, no spray trial area proposal. Okay, I had communication with Bridget Fleming just a little bit earlier. They have lined up 2 interns for the program. They are looking at a 3rd. Hopefully they'll have an answer on her tonight. Kim will be providing help to go out with them, and I think it's going to include Bill. And training will be completed by the 26th of this month, and then the program will start immediately after that. They'll be testing every Monday. Information will be sent back, and then they'll make decisions based upon that. They're asking us to pick up the cost of the interns, which would be my brain
3 to
just
5?
froze.
3 to 5?
$100 a day per intern.
Are they gonna let us pick the sites of where?
No, it's all done on GP.
Why bother?
Well,
It's-
Tim, because we have an opportunity to reduce the amount of methoprene that's being sprayed on the harbor.
No, that's what I want.
Yeah, that's the goal, and our commitment to this would be financial in this case, since we're not, at this point, able to provide the interns. Natural Resources will provide the training. They've located the interns. Bridget Fleming has secured the approval from the other upland property owners, so we're being asked to contribute financially.
It's going to be conducted on Nature Conservancy property, which almost rings almost all of Accabonac Harbor, both sides.
So hopefully it'll have a nice positive impact,
And the sites are going to be what Vector Control considers scientifically valid.
And it's going to be based on the testing. They're going
You
to
mean
choose
the same ones
areas.
that we asked not to spray and they haven't in the past?
Yeah,
pretty much.
those people.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's a frustrating process, for sure.
They've
But it's an
provided-
opportunity to make improvement.
They provided a protocol based on a program in New Jersey. It's aimed at limiting the amount of methoprene that will be sprayed. It would be more of a targeted spray, and in theory should cut down on the exposure. So it's all good.
It's baby steps, but baby steps are better than going backwards.
So Francis, what are you looking for?
Well, it would, 3 interns, $100 a day when they're working on this. It should come in, $3,000 to $5,000 maximum, but I'm sure it'll be on the low end.
All right.
Can we see if we can utilize our town budget fund, subcontractor or outside professional?
We can look and see.
Okay, that would be great.
Okay. Do I need a motion to,
I'd like to make a motion.
I'll second it.
all in favor?
No.
Okay.
I think we have to start selling sand again. Get some money.
Okay.
That's a good cause.
Lionhead Beach Association, bulkhead repair inspection report.
Yep, we had sent a letter to the agent asking for additional information, and all of that information has not yet been provided, so it's still incomplete.
And it looks like we're also waiting for a check from them.
And a check, yep. Check and I think survey or map or something like that.
Okay.
Can I
Pete?
just ask that everybody speak up, because I've got the air conditioner behind me and I can't hear. So,
Okay. Adopt a Beach program. Tyler's not here, so we'll table that. At Peak Beach, report on beach vehicles. Bill, you want to talk? We sent out an email to everybody.
Who asked for a report on beach vehicles?
We sent out an email.
No, you sent an email out, but
Nobody asked for
none
a
of us
report. We
asked.
did it. He and I went down there on our own initiative because it was 4th of July weekend. We wanted to see if the situation is as bad as the residents down there claim it is.
We've already done this.
You haven't?
Oh, no,
When
no,
were you
this-
down
No,
there?
no, we had a lawsuit on it.
Okay, so what's wrong with documenting they are now,
What-
they-
The lawsuit's being appealed. We're
Yeah.
trying to keep our information current. You know, I mean.
Go ahead.
Anyhow, we took a ride down there. We saw 83 vehicles and maybe several hundred of East Hampton residents behaving in a nice, peaceful manner with no problems. We didn't see any signs of crazy activity. It was a nice
No.
family.
no abuse?
Day?
Well,
It all
you
looked great.
realize that the beach has been fenced off
It's been
Right
semi.
Since then.
since then.
I mean,
You were
the way
down
it's
there
always
today,
been.
right?
Yeah, they opened up a lane to let the emergency vehicles and stuff through. Yeah, I think the fence was put up Friday and part of it was taken down today.
Right, so just to follow up with beaches and stuff, you know, following last week's meeting, I did try to be a little bit more proactive, and I sent a memo out to Juliana Durier, who I understand is our plover monitor, for more information, so we can understand where exactly all the nests are, where the fencing is, when it went up, you know, what's the status. Since that date, she responded to Francis with another update for Georgica, but no further updates on anywhere else. And then still, so in the interim between our last meeting and now, additional fencing went up along the Nat Peak stretch. So this has been an ongoing issue that I've had with regard to the plover fencing. And I just, you know, the board, has not been able to make a whole lot of progress with getting the respect and support of the Natural Resources Department to provide this information when we ask it. Because who did they call over the weekend when the fencing went up? Trustees. It's like, everybody wants it, and we can't answer their question because we haven't been in the loop. So there's a real problem with this.
I'm not sure how often those areas are checked,
Right, and that, again, that's something we should be aware of.
and I'm not sure if the areas are being expanded proactively or in reaction to signs of nest expansions. I have no
I got
idea.
this secondhand, said that there were two nests found down there.
Yeah,
And
the
that was-
plovers were seen yesterday.
So the two nests are outside the existing area.
Apparently, yes.
Don't they know where they're supposed to be?
No,
No answers there.
yeah,
All right.
no. But we need to know, because now they're fenced off. So now, how much of that area over which you saw 83 vehicles is now going to be condensed into a smaller area, which is then going to appear to be, you know, more crowded? I mean, this is the problem we've had for several, you know, all along. So it's, you know, the question is, was the fence put up by Natural Resources, or was the fence put up by a homeowners association, or, you know, nobody knows. That's the problem. And the innuendo and the criticisms of the program, they start to get this tumbleweed effect because we can't provide any answers.
But we have seen no other reports for anywhere.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, do you mind? Does the board mind? Although, you
No,
know,
it's nice
they don't
that
seem to be
people
as scared of me
always have
asking, but I'd like to.
Regardless of the ownership of the beach, we still get the inquiries as to what's going on. It's in everybody's interest to maintain some level of communication. And as you mentioned, if this is a fence that wasn't put up by Natural Resources, if this is a fence that was put up by some other group,
No, the fence.
But the
When-
fence,
When we went down there, there were two areas that were fenced off.
And
They
there were
had
actually,
plover nests inside.
believe it or
and
not, there
People
were
were,
tire tracks going right through the middle of one of them.
and
That surprised me.
what I understand is Friday, I think Juliana went down there and put up some fencing because a couple of the chicks had hatched. And the police wanted them shortened up this morning. So after that was done. But, as to what, I guess we should ask for
Yeah.
some
Okay, so two
notification that the
points.
fencing goes up.
2 points. I have asked for that, Bill, several times, year after year after year. I want to know when it's going up. I want to know before it goes up. Okay, so 2 points. Number one, if you were aware that Juliana was going down there on Friday to install additional fencing because plovers were hatched, why didn't you contact any of us? Why didn't you tell the trustee's office? If you're aware of that and you know we're questioning it, you're right there in the office. Get the information and provide it to us. Number two, the fencing that was installed went from just below the beach grass line down to the mean high water mark and left a little pedestrian corridor. That is so totally in opposition to the management plan that was adopted by this board so many years ago. That fence, pedestrians should be prohibited from coming off their staircases and walking right through a plover area. The fence stops at the mean high water mark so vehicles, dogs, pedestrians can traverse that beach. That's what was approved. And it's not what's been implemented for several years now, and I've said it over and over and over and over again, and it just gets more and more frustrating every year.
Well, one opportunity here may be to try and use our website more effectively and provide some kind of login credentials to someone in Natural Resources, and they could post information real time. So I'd like to consider exploring that.
If they're willing, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Well,
Yeah.
I'd like to have that conversation and see if it's an opportunity. We have, Juliana's a younger person, more technology-driven, so to speak, than more of our senior members like myself. So maybe there's an opportunity going forward to get a buy-in to something like that, where from the desk, from the office, from the phone,
So she
updates could
just
be
go-
posted.
She could update it on our
Is-
website from the phone.
Is
Yeah,
her sole priority at this point plover monitoring,
Yeah, I think that's all she does.
full-time?
I'm not sure if I don't think she's full-time.
She's not full-time. She's not a full-time employee of Natural Resources.
She works in Natural Resources. I don't think she has a 40-hour week. I think the town could use more personnel,
I do too.
yeah?
I do too. I think we need more personnel.
There were many times in
and-
the past when there were 2 or 3 people dedicated to the Plover program on a full-time basis.
We also had a volunteer contingency that we did training with to get them out there to assist us. The last time I did speak with Juliana, she said she had come up with some people to volunteer. She got them up to the DEC to go through all the training, only to find out, once they were complete, that the DEC wouldn't approve them as volunteers because they weren't 18 years old. Come on. This is just like we're spinning our wheels. But yes, we do. We need more personnel dedicated to this, because the more people that are monitoring this, the less restrictions we need to have. So whether it's more personnel for Natural Resources or more volunteers next year, or, I think there's a certain amount of the budget that's dedicated to endangered species for Natural Resources, like $5,000 a year, something like that. Let's negotiate this type of stuff in our budget hearings. We could take that $5,000 and come up with a persons, volunteers.
Internship program like we see going
Yeah,
on now in
yeah.
Accabonac Harbor could be a nice program. A
Yeah.
little more formally
Yeah,
structured with
something
modest
that's a little bit more under
compensation.
control of this board, so we know what's going on.
No, we should definitely be more involved.
Just 2 suggestions on the things you've just been talking about. These are not necessarily legal in nature. Actually, the first one is, I'd like the idea of you monitoring vehicle activity on, Truck Beach. I think if you're gonna do that, though, it would be better to do it in kind of a systematic fashion. I mean, I don't know how practical it is to go do it every summer
The
weekend.
systematic fashion was we picked what would probably be the most populated day of the 4th of July weekend. which
But are
is like
you doing it like
Best
every
days.
weekend, or you're gonna do it just every 4th of July weekend?
Before you left, didn't you think it was going to be busy?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We wanted to see just how busy.
I-
It wasn't
It
the.
made no sense.
What?
Tim.
It's the same numbers we got that we brought to the lawsuit. It just shows that nothing has
It wasn't
changed for the past
200,
20
300
years.
trucks like they
was
claim.
I think it makes a lot of sense to
We
have data.
documented
Yeah,
that.
you
So
have to
what
have-
is the problem?
You have to have documented current data when you go to court. I mean,
But let me just say this, when you want to have data that you can use, if necessary, in a court proceeding, you should be somewhat scientific about collecting that data, which is to say, do it according to some sort of a, established routine.
Weekly,
Comparing
bi-weekly.
apples to apples.
well, what
If you randomly, I mean,
Yeah.
Fourth of July, one day, on 4th of July weekend in 2017, we know how many cars there were.
Right, it rained.
No, on other days, no.
Yeah.
I mean, no,
I mean,
you should be, you have to keep track of what the
Yeah.
weather conditions are.
Yeah, the number of factors that go into it. Weather's a big factor.
Yeah.
This was a day that looked like it would be a popular
So-
day. and-
So here's what I suggest, and this, you guys can discuss it later, but I would suggest you have some sort of a routine by which you do this, okay? Maybe adopted by the trustees. On these many times in the summer, under these conditions, we'll check. Know the date, the time of the day, who was there, what you observed, what the weather was like.
That's why
And
we.
do that on a systematic basis.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the information's not very valuable.
Well, no, that's why we basically memorialized.
You
it
could
right
try
away.
this weekend, it's supposed to
Is it
rain.
being- How is it being recorded?
Yeah.
How is it being recorded?
I think,
That would be silly. wouldn't
How is it being recorded? I mean, we're talking about it
Exactly.
Yeah,
now.
Francis counted the vehicles.
How is it being recorded? Is there a memo to a file
Yeah,
somewhere?
we
should have a
sent the memo
spreadsheet.
to all the trustees.
So, Lori, we have a file that this
Yeah.
information
Have a
belongs
logbook.
A file on what?
No, you have a.
This
you have-
information, how do we know where is this
Yeah, we
information
have
going to be
a
retained?
huge pipe and plover. We have files from every year.
On the truck counts.
Oh, the truck counts?
On
Yeah.
these counts.
I didn't
don't
get
know.
I didn't get
know
an
we have a
email on the
file,
truck
but
count.
I'm not sure.
We're
I
talking
don't
maybe
know.
It
starting
was sent
a
out.
logbook.
Yeah.
If they
Well,
go
well,
out-
Well, we
so
just
what I'm
have-
saying
Bill,
is,
Bill and
This is
I
the first.
decided to go down there out of our curiosity to take a look at it.
And Labor Day,
And
we
we
should do the same
documented it,
thing.
and if we want to turn this into a regular thing, more than happy.
and I would advise you do that.
It could be beneficial.
I know
do
there's
too.
a citizens group that did this type of documentation prior to the results of this suit last year. They were out there every day. They had a volunteer out there taking a photograph. So whether that's admissible for the courts or not, but I do know our citizens were monitoring
Yeah.
the number of vehicles out
Would be
there.
helpful.
Yeah.
We
Could
took
be
a couple, we have a
cooperation
few
with someone like
photographs.
CFR or someone.
Sure.
Maybe they would be a good partner for this project.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to go check it on Labor Day, or whatever day of the weekend is gonna be the best day. The 4th of July happened, on a Tuesday this time, so it was,
Well, actually, if we're gonna do this, to just go down there 4th of July, to just go down there Labor Day weekend, the thing is, some of that data works against you because you're picking the high sides. I think what's also important is, Tim, you mentioned it's gonna rain this weekend, but it's not a bad idea to have some baseline so that you truly have an average.
Every Sunday.
Okay, here was the high extreme, here was the low extreme, and here's the average number of trucks here. If this lawsuit resurrects the way it probably will, you'd say, well, okay, you claim that there was X number of vehicles down there on a given date, but let's put that in the context of what the norm is. And you're looking at it as the very, very worst, or being able to rebut something like that and say, well, when they say, well, we documented 200 vehicles standing, you can say, well, gee, it's kind of funny. We did our count the exact same day. We came up with 86. Okay, well, you count the number of tires?
yeah.
How are you coming up with your information? Because I think one of the problems that has gone on with this is a lot of the information was, hey, it was self-serving. We painted a picture that we were trying to make a point, and we did on both sides. So
Well, this started out as
forward.
curiosity on
I think it was a good thing.
So my advice is you, like I said, systematize this.
All right, so we can work.
Hey, Rick, it's your turn to get down there this weekend. Okay, let us know how many you got.
And don't count the tires.
Well, I was there on Sunday. I didn't count the cars, though. Didn't look too bad. Everybody was behaving, like these guys said. It was a great day out there, families. Yep,
Great.
yeah.
One quick thing with regards to departments in general. When we do have a problem and we're not getting the feedback that we feel we need, I would recommend that you send an inter-office memo just to remind why it's important that
We
you keep
did.
us abreast. All right, I don't know where you go from there.
And Brian, Kim is gone.
I know, I'm lost. All right, I'm done.
All right, we're back to Georgia Ponds, Phragmite control applications. Ackerman?
Okay, Ackerman's been in a while. The status of that is this. This is not a Phragmites cutting project on the applicant's property, any of it. It's all in our pond bottom. It's more of a philanthropic sort of gesture, in that he's controlled the Phragmites basically on his properties pretty clean. But what they'd like to do is control some of it to the south and west of him. He has an application in with the DEC that hasn't gained any traction at all. I spoke to the applicant a few weeks ago, and basically what he was asking is if we would be willing to issue a permit on this to see if he could move the DEC. The problem I think he's having is he's applying to do a project that is not at all on his property, and the DEC can't get their head around it.
So this is,
Well, that's funny, because every permit for dock repair, whatever that the DEC issues is not for private
No,
property, it's
but
ours.
but
So where's
all
the
right.
problem?
So would we be comfortable voting on this tonight?
Issuing a
How-
permit
how's
to
he
the
doing it?
applicant
Just
to
cutting
remove
it?
Phragmites?
It's just a cut.
God, you can't even get like.
Yeah,
cutting Phragmites
yeah,
in
all the
Georgia.
permits we issue for Phragmite.
And what it is
removal
what's the
on
name of
our
the
property, as
cove
far as
that
I'm
he
concerned.
lives on there?
Siamese Cove.
Jones Cove.
Yeah.
Jones Cove.
Right.
What he's
Same
looking to
one.
do is he's looking to cut the southwest end of Jones Cove. And, you know, there is a bit, you know, a self-serving
It's all
interest
Georgia.
here in that he's got a kayak up on his lawn. He'd like to be able to paddle that kayak through that little bottleneck. I think it would serve to improve the water quality in that cove, certainly improves the view corridors, and it does reduce the Phragmites. And, you know, this is an area where the Phragmites really isn't that bad, because the nice thing on these properties is, for the most part, the property owners in that area have left that woody buffer, and it provides a lot of shade. The Phragmites literally only grows as an emergent plant in the water in that area, so.
And we're
I
not
think
talking about a big area?
No, you're not really talking about a big area, but what it is, it's in front of several different properties, probably 4 to 6. And you got an applicant that's willing to foot the bill. I'd say it's a win-win for the trustees.
Do we have a properly completed application
Yes.
from him?
We've had a properly
Okay.
completed application
Since
for
October 2016.
Since October,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
What about the neighbors? Are they okay with it?
actually,
You said several.
in some of these neighbors, it's, and the reason the neighbors haven't really approached this is it's kind of a non-issue for them, because it's portions of their property, they can't even see the Phragmites. So, I
So
think
they don't care.
I don't think they really care.
It's all cutting by hand, and
It's all
then
cutting by hand,
he's gonna remove it to an approved upland
Yep.
disposal site?
yes.
Okay.
Do we feel comfortable voting on this tonight?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'd like to put a motion on that we vote.
okay.
Do we have a second?
I'd second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good to go. All right,
Gallo. Okay, Gallo is very, very similar to One Association Road in that it is not a cutting and not a hand excavation proposal. It's a hydraulic excavation proposal. It's at 94 Acapog. We've actually had this application since last October, and they haven't pushed it. We had so many issues going on with One Association Road. It's the same agent. We let that kind of be the lead project. I did speak with,
Jim, by hydraulic excavator, you talking about like that little thing we saw?
no, an
okay.
excavator,
Okay.
hydraulic excavator.
Okay.
So I did speak with the agent for the applicant today, and we are going to meet either the end of this week or sometime next week to look at this.
Okay.
Same kind of problems, though, in terms of plant lists. It's a list of the shortest plants in the eastern United States.
It's not trying to make a basketball team out of the plants, right?
It's the closest as we can get to grass.
So are you making progress, though?
We're meeting for the first time. One Association Road, now, let me back up. Gallo does have a DEC permit. Okay, they are still in the process with the village, and they have some other issues. There's a house going up on the project. They've got some other issues with the village that they're hammering out. So it's kind of timely for us to address this. One Association Road, excuse me, they had a ZBA hearing about a month ago now, and I don't think there's been a determination published on that. I did attend the hearing. I did speak against the project in its current form. The plant list as it was prepared was basically drafted around another project. It was Mallow, which was totally on the other end of the pond. The conditions on this site are completely different. It's really a site for a more woody buffer. And at this point, the way the project's drafted, I wouldn't approve it. I would say that we should maybe table this for one more meeting, because the applicant was going to get back to me with an attempt to change this. And if that occurs, we can revisit again. If not, in its present form, I'd recommend that we deny this.
Been on the agenda quite a while.
It's been on the agenda, but you know what? This is one that's been on the planning. We've been going back and forth for quite a bit of time.
Okay.
Perella, Lori, did we get a survey that's not a photocopy?
You know what, I'm not positive.
I'd spoken to the applicant.
I don't think that he has brought one back yet.
No, okay. So
No.
then I'd like to table that. I think you guys had looked at that application at the last meeting, and what was submitted was a somewhat sort of a landscape plan and a photocopy of a stamped survey with a detail on it. I don't think it's really cool for us to accept a photocopy of a stamped survey, just for the simple matter of you're sort of putting the surveyor in a compromised position. What I asked this applicant.
Especially with drawings on it.
Who's the
Yeah.
agent?
What?
Who's the agent on this?
Illegal.
It was Lori Wilshire, but I've been hearing from the contractor on this. What I asked the contractor to do is move the section detail to his landscape plan and just provide a stamped copy of the survey where it denotes the area of the proposed core fiber logs. And honestly, at that point, I think this is ready for approval. Siegel, that I think you guys dealt with at the last meeting.
That one,
I don't remember.
was that the one that we approved?
Siegel was the one that there was an open permit on this literally years ago. And the building department was asking us to close out a Phragmites cutting permit, which it was 4 years ago, Guy. The permit's been expired for 4 years.
That was, in fact, the one that we did approve.
Okay,
There was only one. Everything else was kind of on hold.
yeah. Well, Birch, I think you approved at the last meeting.
Yes,
Yeah, and that was complete.
right, yeah.
And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Jim.
All right, harbor management, deep water wind.
Yes,
report.
I had a chance to speak with Jennifer Garvey from Deepwater Wind this afternoon, and we have scheduled our next meeting with them for August 16th at the trustee office on Bluff Road. It will be focusing on the environmental impacts of the project. particularly with the installation of the turbine bases, the running of the power line, and the potential environmental impacts. And we're looking forward to hearing from some of their environmental experts at this meeting. So it's an interesting opportunity for us to learn more about the project, and we are looking to have more representation from both the commercial and recreational fishing community at this meeting. So we've had some great speakers over the past 3 Harbor Management Committee meetings on this topic, and we're looking forward to continuing the research and making this information available to the East Hampton community. I know that some of the input that has been given to Deepwater has been taken into consideration, and they are now looking at the southern routes for the power transmission cable. And I believe there was some correspondence from the town that there's some site surveys proposed for Napeague Lane and over on Beach Lane.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting development, and I think it's an important thing for our board to keep an eye on.
But aren't the Beach Lane, Napeague Lane test sites for additional windmills that are going to be built, they're offshore in the ocean?
It's possible. There are a lot of interested parties right now vying for leases for wind farms offshore, and it's a very complicated matter. I mean, this is...
But this testing is being done by Deepwater, so.
Yeah, this is
For
Deepwater
the
specific.
transmission line.
But this is just part of the research and trying to understand the process, trying to understand the players. And at the last meeting we had, all of a sudden, a new contractor appeared at the meeting looking to network with everyone and meet people. And, you know, we're seeing that, you know, it's kind of like there's blood in the water right now.
Yeah.
Do you
And,
think
Now,
it would,
I'm not going to be able to be at that meeting. Diane, would you be able to attend that meeting?
possibly, but what I'm thinking right now is that if it's getting to this point, and you had said in the past about you might needing a larger venue or whatnot, would it be more beneficial for us to hold a special meeting here, open it up to the public, and say it's a little larger than just the harbor management committee? Take a little heat off you guys?
Well, I think we're working towards that. That was the goal. And initially, I thought we could do that after a couple of meetings, but the scope and the breadth of the project is so great that it's taken multiple meetings to even develop an agenda that they can speak to
Right.
articulately.
Right.
So I think we need at least one more Harbor Management Committee meeting. I have collected and put together the start of an executive summary document that I plan to share with the board and present at a public meeting. And I have also introduced to the Deepwater Wind team that we need to have a final presentation of all the input from all the interested stakeholders, from the offshore fishing community, the inshore fishing community, the sustainable energy community here in East Hampton, and really have a well-presented executive summary of all of this research.
Right.
So that would be forthcoming. We'd hope to do it in August, but it's probably going to be September or October.
Okay. I will do my best to be there for you, Jim, on the 16th. And then also, what was I thinking? Oh, it's just a little concerning to me that while we're being very cooperative with them and trying to gather our data and wrap our heads around this whole thing so we can assist our community in understanding it, that they seem to be still moving forward. So it's a little concerning to me. It's like,
Absolutely.
slow down,
It's
guys.
concerning, and that's why
Yeah.
we're
Guys,
doing this.
Keep in mind, a component of this, next Wednesday, the 18th, is part of the battery component. There's a public hearing on one of the private parcels in Montauk is up next Wednesday.
That's separate from Deepwater.
That's separate, but you know what? But
Oh,
they're
they're
very,
all tied
they're very much
together.
They are
intertwined.
connected,
3 Mile
Yeah.
Harbor
but
Drive.
Deepwater has nothing to do
No,
with
no,
that
they do
project.
not. That's a,
Diane,
that's
we
a
are trying to-
PSE&G subcontract.
We are trying to get a member of the Public Service
Not
Commission
that I know of.
involved
You know
in this,
what?
as they
The
will be a
files should be
very
down
important
there.
player in this. So we're
The
trying to
file
really
is down
bring
there, so we'll have to
everyone
transfer
together,
some.
so
Right.
It might
the
be.
project
Yeah.
is
I'm
well
not sure. I
vetted.
don't think we did.
And we can't stop what they're doing, but we are trying to do our very best to understand the stakeholder engagement process. Today, I talked with Jennifer about their document management system. How do we deliver meaningful input on the project that's well qualified and well prepared? And she's prepared to speak to that at this coming meeting. So it's a really important meeting where they'll have their scientific experts, they'll go over the stakeholder engagement process in detail, and really bring their A-team to the table, which they really couldn't do at the last meeting.
Okay.
And they really had to take a step back,
Yeah.
acknowledge that we're really challenging them to deliver
Can
a
you-
quality project
Can you-
proposal.
Right. Can you ask them to also provide any input on how the Block Island windmills are performing now that they're up and running? So we got something to start
Yeah,
looking
that's
at?
been part of the discussions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And will definitely be on the agenda.
Okay.
I think that the last meeting was really productive. I think getting this dialogue to them has caused them to be starting to look away from going through Gardeners Bay and Block Island Sound and bringing it up to south. And I think these meetings are really valuable. And,
It's been a great opportunity for a lot of interested
I
parties.
think
to
they're
learn.
getting a lot of input they didn't expect. And this has given an opportunity for the fishermen to voice their concerns and everybody else. So, yeah, I think we would definitely, Diane, should have a public hearing,
That was
in a
the
big
plan.
venue.
To have a second meeting, yeah,
Absolutely.
good.
We will definitely do that.
Okay,
Okay, good stuff.
thank you.
3 Mile Harbor, application of B. De Los Sueños Partners at 22 3 Mile Harbor Drive.
Excuse me, Francis, can we just back up one
Oh,
second?
okay.
The
Yep.
website real quick?
Yep.
I'd gotten some feedback from members of the public. There were a couple of broken links on the website, and they've been repaired. John from Hampton's Web Design has been very responsive and helpful, so thank you, John, for a good job supporting our site. And then with some of the discussions about recently people using Georgica Pond, and is it healthy and safe for people to use, prompted me to start thinking that we should be getting more information up on the website, not unlike the plover information. But Dr. Gobler does have real-time information available from his monitoring buoys, and I spoke to John about getting that information streamlined into our site on a real-time basis, so the public can go to our site and see the levels, and also provide a legend of what are the thresholds for safe levels of blue-green algae and other considerations. So I am asking him for a proposal to present that information, and I'd like to go over that at the next meeting with the board. So Dr. Gilbert has some great information, as we know, and let's try to get it available to the public.
The other thing I mentioned, and not to sound corny, but I think it'd be nice if we could, and I'm sure the technology is there, you bring up our website and it can tell you the tide, the weather. I
Yeah,
think
all those apps are out there. So
Yeah.
Good point, Brian.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Folks would actually look to that information and then perhaps scroll down and see what's going on.
Dig deeper, do a
Yeah.
deeper dive. Yep, good point. So I'll come back with a few more
Okay.
suggestions and see how John recommends some things, and maybe we can do a prototype up on the board.
Okay.
Concerning 22 3 Mile Harbor, his agent was here, Carl Iris, and there was a little misunderstanding, but Carl sent us a memo, and it's in the folder. They're going to have at the landing a hinge for the platform at the bottom of the stairs that will hit the beach and be put up in the wintertime. So I thought we approved the permit to go forward.
No, it wasn't approved.
Okay,
No, I think it was.
I thought it was too.
4-3.
The
Yeah.
last section?
Yeah.
The last section
Yeah.
is on the beach?
Yes,
Right.
yeah, once that was established, and we talked about that 2 weeks ago,
How far out does it go when it's down?
it looks like it's gonna be about maybe tops 4 feet. Yeah,
Okay.
so having said that, if we didn't,
It wasn't a motion. You might have approved the hinge, but I don't remember a motion.
okay, so I
I
would,
think we'd just review the tape, because I think it was, because it was very specific. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
3-3 or something, was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
changed my vote at the very end.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay. I
So I
don't
remember it
So we'll
specifically.
review the
Do we
tape
wanna-
if you would.
Revote it, or is it?
No, it was voted.
It was.
It was voted.
Yeah. With regards to 10 3 Mile Harbor Drive, we're waiting for an as-built survey. This had gone, this bulkhead work and the stairs down to the dock was done a number of years ago, and it appeared to be done very well. But they, the building department had asked if we would close out the permit, and we need an as-built survey, because as you recall, I had one, but it was like 2 years, 2 years old.
Francis, is P&D Hampton's there, the file?
ENV.
P&D.
Did they, do we have the as-built? I suspect probably not yet.
I don't have.
The file might be there on your right-hand side.
So upon receiving either now or later the as-built survey, then we would be able to close it out, assuming that all of the conditions have been met.
Yeah.
Good. So, I think it is that one.
There it is.
Let me take a look. Yeah. No. So we're still waiting for it.
Is that Lori Wiltshire?
I believe it is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I already told her.
Okay,
Well,
good.
That was a while ago, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, Vanderveer.
I spoke to Mr. Vanderveer concerning a number of things that were going on. He was here the last meeting. We are also waiting for an as-built survey from him with regards to piling replacement that took place
Quite some time ago.
quite some time ago.
2001.
2000.
Yeah, quite some time ago. So,
We inspected his bulkhead that he had replaced about the same time, so this is a separate issue.
right.
And after both of those, he did a travel lift, so that should be on the survey too.
That should be coming in next month, right?
Correct. Correct.
Maybe you should
You
do
were
them
waiting
all
on
at
a survey.
once, we'll get them
Yeah.
all.
Should put them all on one.
All right, so that's tabled. Administrative, payment of the bills. We have Optimum, $165.53. Star Island Yacht Club, $932.16 for gas, oil, etc. $618 for boat repair. Staple, $95.31. And Anthony Tohill for Seaview, $1,715.
I can make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, minutes, April 11th.
I haven't had a chance to really look at Diane's changes. I appreciate you taking the time to update them. If there's any way you could send the updates a little sooner, it's just tough if
I
you're
know.
busy on the day to
I
get it
know.
in before the meeting, so
Yep, no problem.
that would be a great help.
Yep,
So we can just
Table it?
table until next week, and Tyler's not here either from the
Right.
committee.
yep.
Okay, financial reports. End of month. Everybody have a chance to review that?
I had an opportunity to look them over. They appear to be in order, and I would make a motion that we accept them.
Have a second?
That's not good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Okay, and the Norwalkie report.
That was on last time, but,
I'm sorry?
it was on last time, but it's just to remind everybody to review it.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Reading material.
So, yeah, I did review it. I did notice that since 2015, some of the language that better described what the trustees are had been implemented in here, but they're still referring to us a lot as a component of the town. And they've even put something in here quoting a law that defines why we would be called that, but I still don't get it. I don't feel we're a component of the town. And they also always refer to our budget that's received from the town as a transfer. And it's just, so there's just little language, things in here that I don't like. I don't think they describe us properly. But overall, they didn't have they have no major problems with our financial reporting, record keeping, whatever. Some of the recommendations they had made last year about getting to the bank more often, and then, you know, they made note that we're trying to implement all that. So there are no problems with our accounting. It's just the way they word it, and I would just think going forward that if they want to prepare a document like this that shows how we utilize the monies that are budgeted to us through the town, I'm fine with that. But the monies that are taken in by this board, that are used by this board, shouldn't be part of this audit. We have our own separate, you know, again, audit, verbiage, audit, reports, whatever, but, you know, we have had our finances for our half of this monies adequately revised, reviewed. So I don't know if that's going to happen this year, but when you go to the budget meeting, you just might
Well,
mention that.
We can separate ourselves from it. We have to hire someone else to do the audit, and we can pay for it. Or we can accept the town paying for it, and it gets done at the same time with the Norwalkie thing. It's up to the board to decide what.
Well, can't we just give them suggestions on how to word us? I mean, we are our
I
own
think they
entity.
have.
We can continue that
suggested.
process. Maybe.
I'd prefer to be separate. Our monies, town monies. And they're about equal, just so everybody knows. What we get from them, what we take in, give or take every year, it's pretty equal.
Well, you know, we could look into what the cost of a separate audit and relationship
have
would
some
be.
time.
We have the data, just look into it, all prior to Milwaukee here, we did it. It's in the files, all the bills. It was like $3,000, something like that. So, that was just my opinion. But on a happier note, Francis, might I take a moment to insert something else with regard to finances here?
Sure.
I had been contacted one time, a week or so ago, from the finance office. There are some FEMA and CMO projects that had been accomplished back in 2009, 10, 11-ish, in those years, where the trustees had paid out some monies to implement. For example, like a little over $18,000 for Fresh Pond, and what do we have? $30,000 for Napeak East, $102,000 for 3 Mile Harbor Inlet. You know, anyway, there's a big packet of information where I had sent up to them several years ago, the bills, there was, you know, all the information, so we would get that reimbursement monies. And it had just kind of gotten all lost in the shuffle of making sure all the components of the projects had been done. So they're working on getting that now. So there is a good chance that some of these monies, significant amount of these monies, will be reimbursed to the trustees.
Excellent.
So that would be nice to finally see that come back, yeah.
What organization was that from?
Finance office, yeah, they
It would come
contacted me.
It would come through the town finance office?
Yeah, apparently, you know, they think, like, even one of my memos had said, we had understood that some of these reimbursement monies had been provided to the town, and we were asking for our portion to come back, so it didn't come back yet, so now they're trying to just get it all figured out and get it to us.
What were the programs, Diane?
Oh, we did, you know, the excavation of the Fresh Pond Inlet, excavating Napeak East Channel.
Well, there were acronyms. What were the? There were acronyms you used.
FEMA and SEMA.
Oh, FEMA and
Federal
SEMO. And
SEMO's the
SEMO is
state
the
one.
state, yeah. Yeah,
Who is related to Timo, but not to be
I never heard of
confused with
SEMO.
yeah,
That's the
yeah.
one that threw me.
Yeah, so anyway, it would be very nice if, you know, those monies can come back to us. And then we can open the
big
culvert
party.
some more and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
I just want to add one thing to that Norwalkie thing. There's a concern about us being described as a component of the town. We get money from the town. Twice tonight, you've suggested that we go to the town budget and apply that to projects for the trustees. So how are we not a component?
Well, it depends, like, looking at just that portion of our budget, then we might be a component of the town. But
Right.
if they're gonna put in the monies that we take in as trustees for the use of the public lands that we manage,
Right.
that should not, that's not a component of the town.
I completely agree.
Okay, so that's, if they want to separate it in this report and make it very clear that we're not getting a transfer from the town. This, we are budgeted, that we're getting budgeted monies that come through the taxes, just like every other department, you know, so,
I'm not sure
Yeah.
about that.
well, yeah, we're not a
That's
department.
a debate, and we
Yeah,
don't
we're not a
need to
department of
debate
the
that
town.
here,
Right,
really.
yeah, yeah.
That's,
But, you know.
We want to change our, we want to
yeah.
clean up the language.
What we
Unless we
want-
want to come up with our own tax line, so we'd have our own budget.
do we have the right to,
That was being
Tax,
investigated
no.
by the Southampton Town Trustees. So, yeah.
really, if you guys are going to consider this, what you're going to be considering is whether we want to take the convenience of putting our own funds under the audit of Norwalk and Smith, which is paid for by the town, or if we want to separate our own funds out from that and hire a separate firm to do the same thing at our expense. That's really all we're talking about here.
Okay.
Which is what was always done prior to these guys taking on our individual monies. And that just came about after the whole financial fiasco with the town. And they were trying to get everything all straightened up, and it seemed like, okay, I understand where you're going. You want to make sure everything is above board, we all understand what's going on. But now that you look at it a couple years later and you realize, you know, we're not getting a transfer from the town.
Well, we
The
are.
monies that we
We're
take
getting- We are
in,
getting a transfer from the town. All the departments that get money from the town budget gets a transfer into their department. So that's exactly what we're getting.
I
How
don't see it
can
as
you say
I
that?
don't see it as a transfer. It's like, there's a budget line, you
Right.
submit a purchase order, it's approved, the town pays it.
Well, it also includes the payroll,
Payroll, okay.
so.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know.
definitely money coming
I
in
think
from
we're
the
just
town.
missing, Francis, I'm sorry.
No, we are,
Yeah,
we are.
yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't know how important
We're doing really
those-
good up to this point.
Yeah, I'm just,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I just
Yeah,
want,
yeah,
if we're gonna think
yeah.
about doing this, we're talking about
Yeah.
taking on another expense, and I just want everybody to be aware, just be clear of what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Right.
Well,
That's
let's-
all.
let's find out what the numbers are, and let's find out if there's language that we can get them to
Well,
change that would be
actually,
more
let's ask an
suitable.
accountant whether that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because, you know, you can get these reports, you're gonna get 10 different
Right,
assessments.
right.
If it doesn't make sense, let's not spend the money.
Right.
There's
I
other
agree.
there's other
Yeah.
things that we could spend our money on.
Work on changing the
Yeah.
verbiage.
And
Right.
it's like whoever is paying the bill for a service, like we were talking earlier, reports, you know, it's going to be tainted to the person who's paying for its point of view.
Right.
So I just want to ensure that if this document is not somehow infringing or could ever somehow diminish the
Agreed.
role of the trustees' monies.
Right.
Yeah, okay, so there we agree. Okay,
I mean, just, the accountant should not have a point of view in
Yeah.
determining, you know.
Accountants are not supposed to
No.
have points of view.
right, but it's
They're
a,
not.
it's a written
That's why they have
document, it becomes
licenses.
part of the record,
Yeah, it's-
and it can be interpreted,
it's passion.
you know, by who reads in the future. So,
Be
Okay,
continued.
yeah, let's move on.
Before we leave bills and finances, I do have two bills that we had asked for invoices from Savick and Murray some time ago, that were given to me tonight. The amounts were roughly $2,800.
Who are they
Oh.
again?
Savick and Murray was the marine engineering company that were engaged by the town to
For the
to
ramp.
investigate the Napeag launching ramp. These
Oh,
are,
yes, yes.
this is work that was done back in March and April before we kind of pulled the plug on this project for the moment. Okay, they've been sitting out a while, they did give you the documents, and what it is, it's their time sheets where they came up with this stuff. I don't know whether we want to vote on this to pay this tonight, or whether we want to table this to the next
Are you
meeting.
comfortable with it?
I mean, it adds up. I think we should,
I mean, they
personally,
did the
I think we
work.
should pay, I think we should pay it. Right now, the project's on hold. There's no reason to hold money back. on
Jimmy,
these
will their
guys.
work be beneficial?
Their work will be beneficial, but you know what happened is, and this was probably something that was ill-conceived from the start. There's been problems with the Napeag launching ramp, as you know, for quite a while, okay? As sort of a response to that, the town board had asked, when Pat was running was a deputy clerk, to look into replacing the launching ramp. I believe the town board budgeted monies for this. Our role in this was to pay for the engineering for it. We got a good ways down the road, and everybody that was using that ramp came to us and told us we were fools if we replaced that ramp. We had a couple meetings where we used it actually as part of the Harbor Management Committee, where we brought some of the public to the meeting. And the consensus that they brought to the table was, there's really nothing wrong with the launching ramp. The problem is really with the channel. And until we settle the issues with the channel, it may be wasting the taxpayers' money to replace this launching ramp. So,
And possibly cause more environmental
and
damage.
possibly cause more environmental issues than we presently have. This is the remnants of that. This is their final bills. I'd like to get it off our desk. So if I could put a motion to pay these 2 invoices,
I'd second
I'd
it.
like to do that.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
A little regretfully, but it's the way it played out.
Yeah. And you know what? This may be valuable work, because you know what? Right now, the DEC is holding their information. Savick and Murray are holding theirs, and we may, you know, in a few months, we may be able to revisit this in a more productive way.
At
Right,
this
it
point,
hasn't been closed out, it's just been tabled.
No.
Bill, you want to say something?
yeah.
Okay. All right, report of the clerk. So we interviewed 2 part-time pump-out boat operators. We hired one of them to work in Montauk, and it then became evident that we're going to need someone else in 3 Mile Harbor. So after consulting with several of the members, we decided to go ahead and train this other person on 3 Mile Harbor, which has started Saturday afternoon. So that's
It's a
where
good idea,
we'll
have
take
a
it from
backup
there.
for each harbor, so
Yeah.
that- yeah.
Yeah.
Three Mile
what's his-
Harbor's been very busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's his hourly rate?
$15 an hour.
Okay.
Same as was the one in Montauk?
Yep. Yep. Okay.
Okay, excellent.
Largest clam contest. I don't think we've done anything on that.
Yeah, I think we
since-
decided on
Yeah.
the date
Yeah.
last time, so the last weekend in September, was it?
The 24th, I think?
24th.
Yeah.
What was the date?
September 24th?
Okay, I think so.
Sunday, right? We went to Sunday?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, kayak repair. Would there be somebody,
I am going to be at the Nature Preserve meeting on Thursday, because apparently the kayak racks aren't repaired. They're getting hounded by them. We're getting called by them. And on that subject, Lori, I saw that the woman that had contacted us, has anybody gotten back to that individual? Donna, I think was her name.
I went down and looked at that. What has to happen is, it's almost like somebody absconded with one of the posts.
Okay.
Okay, so we have to do a post and 3 rails.
So let's just do it.
I'll go down and do it
Oh,
tomorrow if
yeah.
someone can give me a hand, like 6 o'clock.
I can't tomorrow because I got a
Mhm.
meeting. The following
yeah.
day I can.
I think we can get it done.
All right, and I have not looked at the ones over in Louse Point.
I think
So I
Brian
don't know
had them
exactly
fixed
what
up
that
in
needs.
spring, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
then the bottom one started to
Oh.
break, and I
So
know
how many
we,
rails we need?
6.
6 rails over there?
Yeah.
Now, where
Yeah,
do you,
there-
where do you need the post at?
Posts are okay
Hands
on
Creek.
Louse Point.
And where are the rails
3
needed?
rails, 3 rails there at Hands Creek. And he's saying 6 rails.
6 at,
At Louse Point.
we could just
I
order.
mean, they're laying on the
We
sand,
have an account here.
and then there are kayaks on top. The top
If we don't get that, yeah, we'll get them by this week.
split rails are okay. So,
They are catching wind-blown sand.
Tell you what, if you do.
Yeah, I'm not sure if some of them aren't just buried.
Yeah. Francis, if you can do Hands Creek, I'll do
There's
Loud's
poison ivy in
Point.
there.
Okay,
Fair enough?
fair. I'll
Yep.
pick up all the materials from Riverhead Building and,
Why don't I just, I'll tell you what, if
You'll do
we've got an
yours, I'll do
account,
mine?
if we've got an account, I'll just grab them when I
Okay.
go to do them.
all right. Okay, correspondence from the Nature Preserve Committee. Somewhere in here. Okay, it's meeting notice and minutes, July 13th, there's a meeting,
Yep.
5:30, Town Board Conference Room. All right, anybody have anything else?
Nope.
All right,
I'd
do I
like
have
to make a motion to close the meeting.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
8:05.